Everything I teach, say, do centers around this phrase, favorite self. And what does that even mean? Well, for a long time, the personal growth and development industry has been dominated by the phrases like your best self or your most successful self, right? Like these are the words that we've been taught to aspire towards, right? The problem that I have found with that is every time you hear one of these words, it comes with some connotations that may or may not resonate with you, right? So if you're trying to be your best self, then maybe if you're exhausted and you want to spend an entire Sunday watching Netflix, ordering pizza, and eating ice cream, you might do that with a little bit of guilt inside going, is this really my best self? Because I could have woken up and done yoga this morning, but I'm on the couch. And I think sometimes we do need an entire day on the couch with some pizza and some ice cream, and there should be no shame there. So as I kept looking for words, successful, it comes with all these connotations. You know, even if we make our own definition of the word success, even if we say, well, I have my own version of that word, it doesn't change the fact that when we say it, in our minds, society has taught us things like cars and houses and money and career goals. Like, we really can't strip ourselves from this culture of what that word means. So as I started coaching with people, I was really struggling with like, I don't know if I want to teach people how to be successful with their best self. Like it's loaded, and then none of the words felt right. And then one day I landed on favorite self. And I was like, yes, that's it. Because there's only one connotation that the word favorite has. You define it. That's it. There is nothing else that word implies. So if we start there, that I own the definition of what my best life is going to look like. If we begin there, then everything else can work itself out. So today, we're going to define what that word looks like for you, but also what I want to talk about is how does this make you a stronger leader? Because everyone in this room has a lot of influence. Whether you directly employ people and you are managing a team, or you have clients, you have families, you are all leading other people. And what I have found is when you release your favorite self, you set everyone around you free. Because when you start living according to your integrity and your needs, and they'll be like, wait, what? Like, she's just like doing this differently? Does that mean I can do it differently too? And when you start creating new definitions, you change the wavelengths of everything around you. Also, you can't take people where you haven't been. How are you going to work with a team member to help them be their most favorite self, authentic self, unique self? How are you going to guide them to that if you are plagued with all the connotations that the world gives us? You are going to project those onto them without even meaning to. So you have to set yourself free first, which is the work we're going to do today, or at least get started. It's not a one-day process, guys, but we're at least going to get it started. And as you do this work, you will be much more equipped to help other people do this work too. Okay, before you voraciously feel like you need to take notes, I'm going to go ahead and give you a surprise. At the end, you're going to have a chance to download the entire thing. I'm going to give you all of it. There's fun quotes in here, cute sayings. They're all yours, so you do not have to be rushing if there's something that you see on the screen that you're like, I really need to write it down. So, okay. I'm sure many of you are high achievers, love setting goals. I would guess if you're average and normal, like most of us, you probably have some goals you've been stuck on for a while. Maybe you're achieving some things, but in this one area, you're just like, ugh, just can't get anywhere. So you might feel stalled or stuck. Where are your biggest pain points? And I just want you to think about that right now. Where do you feel that feeling where you just are stalled or stuck? Because that's what we're going to look at today. Most likely, the tools I'm going to share with you, you will have some sort of nugget or aha that's going to help you figure out why you might be stuck. Okay, we're going to dive into the favorite life wheel. Many of you, the coaching industry has been using life wheels since the 1960s, okay? So I did not invent the concept of a life wheel. Many of you have probably done one before. And this is where you look at all the different areas of your life, kind of gauge where you're at and see if your wheel is rolling, right? Because you have to look at your life holistically. And we are gonna do that. But after working on the training that I went through for coaching actually centered around this concept of the life wheel and all of the spokes and how to help people in every single one of the areas. But as I dove in, I kept working with clients and having frustrating experiences and figure out quite why it wasn't delivering everything I wanted it to. And I realized, this goes back to the favorite life, I realized the problem was too many people, when they were doing this assessment, instead of using their own scale of 1 to 10 of where their lives are, they were using these inherited ones. The definitions of what family or career or self-care or everything we're going to dive in today, they were assuming, rating themselves on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe like, let's use a physical spoke. Well, I'm not a 10 because I don't have a six-pack abs and I can't run a triathlon, so I'm not there yet. You may literally never want that. That is not everybody's 10. Right? That may not be your definition. And so I found that there was all these inherited definitions that maybe you got it from society, the media, your family of origin, your culture, your religion. There's like all these places that are telling you what the definition of a great life should be. And so I realized that before we could look at our lives and measure them, we needed to define them. So using the favorite wheel, we're going to do this today. The bulk of our time in this first session, a majority of it is going to be spent on this exercise because you guys are going to pull this out for yourselves today. And then the second half after lunch, we're going to dive into some more specific tools. But most of our morning is going to be on this concept. So first of all, we're going to all these areas of life, family, mind, body, contribution, spiritual, self-care, financial, career, friendship, and then a blank one. You define success. Every single area that's on this wheel, it shows up everywhere we go. So the first time I did a wheel, I had been stuck for about 4 or 5 years powering through financial and career and a health goal. Like just could not be. The same every January, the same goal kept getting written down for like 4 years in a row to the point I started feeling kind of stupid, you know that saying like idiocracy, doing the same thing. I just keep writing the same goal and it's going nowhere. And then I was introduced to this concept several years ago, and it was the first time I realized I wasn't going to get anywhere until I dealt with really low self-care, family, and spiritual. I just kept thinking if I just focused on these things and ignored those problems that I could keep ignoring them and they would eventually work themselves out or fix themselves. And meanwhile, while these areas of my life fix themselves, I'm going to just focus on these things I can control. But they were like a leash holding me back. Until I dealt with them, I was never going to break through those other areas. And so that's why you have to look at your life holistically, because where you're stuck, many of you nodded your heads, you're stuck on some goal. It's probably not that goal or that spoke that you're stuck in, because this is all connected. There's probably a different spoke that you're stuck in that you have to address before you're going to have the breakthrough over here. So we're going to look at that. Okay, here's some of those fun quotes. The key to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. We have to look at our priorities. So that's Stephen Covey. I've learned you can't have everything and do everything at the same time. That one's from Oprah. And then there is no such thing as work-life balance. It is all life. The balance has to be within you. And balanced success is trading in perfection for intention. So freedom, we're going to set ourselves free so we can set others free. It starts by defining life on your terms and letting go of everybody else's. So if you feel stuck, frustrated, or are drowning in mental clutter, we're going to work on that today. I'm going to show you a timeline of our rest. The first thing we're going to do is define our favorite self. Then we're gonna do the favorite wheel exercise. I'm gonna tell you guys the fastest way to create change. We're gonna pick the one thing to focus on. I'm gonna teach you about ants if you don't already know. And I'm gonna introduce you to a concept called the thought wheel. And then that'll be the end of our time. This is both workshops. This is this one and the post-lunch one. So in 2011, on the exterior, I looked like somebody who was really happy. I had a successful career. My husband and I had started a business and it was growing. I had a wealth of friends. I had a busy social life. I was really involved in my community. But underneath that, I was stressed and overwhelmed. I had minimal connection with my husband because we were running a business every evening and weekend, and I had a full-time job. I was feeling unhealthy, tired, my skin, I was having these regular breakouts. I had like reoccurring colds that just kept coming back. I had an unachievable to-do list that was never gonna get done, so I constantly was dropping balls, and I just lived with a heavy weight on my chest. If I didn't know about the wheel at the time, had I known about the wheel of life, and I were to rate a 1 to 10 on how I was doing in every area, this is what my wheel would have looked like. So, does that look like the shape of a wheel? Is that gonna roll anywhere? If that was a tire on your car? So here I was feeling stuck, and that's because a wheel like this can't go anywhere. This is not a wheel, right? This can't move. And so notice that the particular spoke, as I click to the next slide, I'm gonna show you 2022. I want you to put your eyeballs on the dot for self-care, because that was at a 1. In my intro, she said I used to feel guilty about the 30 minutes it took to get ready. I literally had an Excel spreadsheet where I planned out my time by half-hour increments, time blocked the whole thing, where I was gonna give to all the priorities. And there was this 30-minute window in the mornings where I had to get dressed. And I just could not think of how to give that to one of my priorities. It's like, gosh, man, if only I could be more productive with that window. I had not discovered podcasts. This was 2011. Because otherwise I would have called that personal growth or something and been done and felt good about myself. But this was 2011 and I wasn't podcasting yet. So anyways, there was no self-care. I was not on my own to-do list at all. So I want you to look at that dot and watch what happened over the time that I grew. Notice it went from a 1 to a 10. Our lives are all connected, and of course, I did work in every single one of these areas. But I'm here to tell you that that was the spoke that pulled the others up. Like a rubber band, you know, it's like it all stretches out. When you pull out one area, it all stretches. If you learn nothing else from today, know that that spoke has the most power to pull everybody else up. I was taught that it was the mind spoke, and we're going to focus on the mind spoke. But my personal experience was the work it takes to focus on your mind, to read those books or sign up for that therapy, whatever it is you got to do, unless you value your self-care, you might not prioritize it. So self-care is the most powerful spoke. So now we're going to dive into yours. I want you to see what your own wheel looks like. And we're going to do this spoke by spoke. Warning, make sure when you write your definitions that you are not passing on or projecting on something somebody else gave you. I want you to listen to your voice. Your job today is to shed the projections, expectations, the conditioning, the shoulds of what you should want or do. Narratives, you have to go inward today. So I want you to answer this authentically based on what you genuinely want for yourself. And because this is my favorite spoke, we will begin with self-care.